and welcome back to the Mob Mentality Show. I'm Chris Lucian, and my co-host is Austin Chadwick. And today we have Thomas Much here with us to talk about keeping focus on mob sessions, taking breaks, and the positive effects of mob programming, even part-time only. So, Thomas, could you just go ahead and introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about how you found mob programming and things like that?
Yeah. Hi, Austin. Hi, Chris. Good evening from Hamburg. I'm Thomas, and I'm working as a technical agile coach at TK, which is one of Germany's public health insurance companies. And before I became a technical agile coach full-time, I was working for various companies with many teams as a software developer, mainly in the Java stack, as a coding architect, as a workshop trainer, and somehow I slipped into the role of being a coach, a technical coach, because I liked applying the agile programming practices like refactoring, TDD, and so on. And I found it helpful for my own work, and I like to introduce teams to these practices or to help them get better at it. And I think it must have been 8 to 10 years ago, I was asked by a client if I wanted to be a pair programming coach. And I thought, whoa, I'm using pair programming from time to time. I'm coaching it to teams. Why not being a pair programming coach? And that was fun. I spent a lot of time with many teams who were doing cool stuff. But pair programming has its obstacles because it's one-on-one, and if it doesn't match, it can be difficult. And then sometimes I realized I saw a tweet about mob programming, and I thought, wow, let's give that a try. And I found a team who was brave enough to try this with me. And since 2016, I'm also coaching mob programming to teams, which I like to call team programming because the word mob irritates many people. So I hope it's okay if I mention or call it team programming today.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's it.
And before we jump into the first topic, I just want to say I've enjoyed following you on Twitter and seeing your various presentations on team programming and the like. But I guess to jump into the first one, what led you into what are your thoughts on keeping focus in mob sessions? Has that been a problem, or have you had some tips and tricks? So what's the context that led to this topic?
Not so much of a problem, let's call it a challenge, because teams suddenly realize they have to deal with keeping focus. Let me tell you the story behind this. When I started coaching mob programming or team programming to teams, it was a nice to have. Let's give the developers one more gadget or one more gimmick to play with, so let them do some mob programming or team programming. When the pandemic came and suddenly all these teams were in their home office, the companies realized that their teams don't work really well together. They're more like a group of people, and really, truly working together, truly collaborating became more important. And suddenly, many teams like to learn about team programming. So for many developers, coding together, truly collaborating is one of the first times in their life that they're doing this, because too many developers spend their life coding alone in front of their computer. Maybe there were a group of people working for the same boss. Maybe they were discussing user stories and then splitting the tasks up. But many developers were working for themselves, and they weren't used to coding together, to code in front of others. Yeah, that's even scary to many of us developers. So many developers, when they're doing mob programming, team programming, they they're coding together for the first time. And when they're coding together, they suddenly see all their colleagues having great ideas, writing code in front of them. And suddenly their ideas explode because they like to help them. They like to do things differently because they're used to doing them differently before for themselves. And all the developers in the team programming session now mention those ideas. They're just talking across each other about what to do next. And if we're here, oh yeah, if we're doing this, let's do this. Let's also do this. Or while we're doing this, why don't we refactor another part of the system? And so on. And it's easy to lose focus and to forget the task you're actually you should be doing. Actually, you should be solving. Actually, so this coding together made the challenge obvious that it's not a good idea to work on too many things at the same time. To try to solve all the ideas at once. And we have to try and keep focus about the one thing that we're trying to do now, and to take care that we won't forget all the other ideas, that we can get back to them later. Because there are many great ideas like refactoring or naming things, and we shouldn't forget about them. But it might be a problem if we do these things now. So we should try and focus on the current task, but not forget about the other ideas. And that's a challenge for groups becoming a team while programming.
What are some practical strategies that you use to maintain that focus?
Mm-hmm. Before the home office came, when we were doing our team programming sessions on site, we had all these walls where we could put stickies on them, like that. So we won't forget about all these ideas. And we put all these stickies on the wall. We were coding, some of us had an idea, so we wrote it on a sticky, put it on the wall so we wouldn't forget about this. And this was working really, really great because we had some physical thing to keep in mind or keep in our hands, and we wouldn't forget about that. It was on a sticky note. Then the pandemic came and all the teams moved into home office. And we had our digital whiteboards, our digital online boards. And we were putting those stickies on those boards. But not all companies allow the use of those tools. I can understand the reasons behind their fear or their not wanting to use certain tools, but without good tools, how are we supposed to do good software development? So we tried to use those digital online boards for online collaboration, and we put our ideas there if we were allowed to use such a tool. But this was a context switch, and it's more difficult to switch from our IDE or our browser to a different tool, to an online whiteboard. We're switching applications. When we're working on site in our meeting room, we just have the wall next to us. We don't have to switch anything. It's naturally there. But working remote together, we have to switch context. We have to switch applications. And that's where it became complicated. Or we lost focus while trying to keep focus. We lost the focus because we switched the application. And I think I don't know if it was one of the developers or maybe you were talking to the remote mob programming team of Simon and Chris and Martin just recently. Maybe it was Simon who introduced me to the idea of using just a file in our project. And now for some month, we're using just a text file or a markdown file that we just put in our project on the top level, like to-do.txt or .md, and we're putting all our ideas there. at first, they're really not structured. We just put our ideas there just to get them out of our heads. And as soon as I've got the idea out of my head somewhere written down, I can focus on our main task again. And still, I'm sure we won't forget about the idea. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. I want to get them out of my head, but I want to make sure we won't forget about that. And just by writing it down, we've accomplished that. And at first, we just note down all the ideas. And while doing this all day long, or maybe just if we're doing a 2 or 3 hour team programming session, we're just adding to this text file line by line. And after some time, structure emerges. We get the idea of what's really the next step to do. What are steps that we should do within this task, like clean up in the end, do some refactoring, do some renaming, and we'll see some ideas which we should be doing after our current task. So we don't put too much structure at the beginning into this file. We just collect our ideas and structure emerges magically. Yeah. And this simple approach helps teams a lot. Nearly all the teams I've shown this idea to say, wow, that's so simple and so great. And we're not losing any of our ideas, but we can focus on the main task.
Yeah,
and discuss what our main task should be.
Yeah. I think I've seen similar situations. I was mobbing not too long ago on a team, and just refactorings. One team member was really passionate about refactoring, and even while in the middle of making changes to the code, it's like, oh, we need this refactored, and we need that refactored, and we need that refactored. And so, I also, I like the idea of having the running markdown file. And one thing that I was telling the team when mobbing with them was, it's the whole like red-green refactor is an interesting concept, because it's not red refactor green, right? You don't refactor in the middle of those, and I even kind of went further to say it's refactor red green refactor, right? You refactor before, and that's kind of like the make it easy to change, then make the easy change. I think that's a Kent Beck thing. And so I thought that was interesting as well. But it's almost like you'll definitely get ideas while doing the work about what to change, but there's this period where people can focus on making those changes happen before the work gets underway too, that I think gets lost a lot. Yeah,
and there are different ideas about refactoring, because there's the refactoring we should be doing while focusing on the main task. To get this red-green refactor thing going. And then there are refactoring ideas which would change whole parts of the system, which are probably a really good idea, not just for the task at hand.
Yeah,
that's a completely different refactoring. And to learn to separate those ideas of the next step, the refactoring that we need right now, from the refactoring that's a really great idea, but that we should be doing sometime later on. That's a great learning for teams. And I don't know if I understood you correctly about we could also use this just before coding, because we can use this text file for some kind of planning, getting our ideas into some text form, not too long. We don't want to have large files of text, but our first ideas about our first steps, what we want to do some small amount of initial planning. That's also helpful. Yeah.
It's kind of like a buffer, right? You just kind of add to it and then take from it as you go, but it's very, very changeable, mutable as you go as well.
Yeah, and it's not too much bureaucracy, which is too much process, which is often a problem. If we try to put this into a wiki or some issue tracking system, that doesn't make sense. Many teams are asking, why don't we do some detailed planning and break down our story into subtasks and put them into our ticket system? Yeah. But that takes too much time, creating all those tickets and then seeing, oh, we don't need that ticket anymore. who's going to delete tickets from the ticketing system? But to delete a line, just an idea in a text file is easy. It's just like throwing away a sticky note that we don't need anymore.
Minimum viable bureaucracy. I love it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I kind of have maybe some experiences to share, and then I'd like your opinion on maybe somewhat of a controversial topic. Maybe it goes back to one of the classic controversies with code, but I've been all over the map on this one. So I think in being on different 3 or 4 different mobs the last couple of years, there are some who are really into storing it in an external tool, like whether it's like visual remote Kanban, and all the detail goes into there. So like every step that is done in there, right? And then I've seen approaches similar to what you're talking about. What I like about what you're saying is you don't have to switch context to get to your notes, right, so to speak. Is that markdown file, is that checked in to the code, or is it independent from the code base? It is.
It's checked in, of course, because when we're doing remote mob programming, we're using this fast Git handover tool that's developed by Simon. And we just check in all our changes, and we don't care where those files are. If they are in the project, we can pass them from one typist to the next typist. So it is checked into the project at top level, and at the end of the story of our task, we have to make sure to clean this file, even to delete it, because in the end we can see if all our ideas, or if we've dealt with all our ideas, if there are some ideas left that we should be doing, and we can take all the ideas for later stories and put them in the backlog, for the example. And when we've done this, our current task is finished. We can delete this task file or this to-do file, and then we are truly finished our story. So it's checked in. It's passed from we're passing it from one typist to another, and at the end, the file is just deleted.
Oh yeah, so that has a lot of similarity with what I was about to share. So thank you for giving that detail. So I guess my comfort zone more lately has been, it's similar to what you're saying, but different, and maybe a controversial way. And it's similar in that, so we'll have a diagram or a high-level Kanban board that's good for collaborating with those outside that particular mob. That's like a very high-level statement, like, oh, we're working on this story, or this story related to this infrastructure component or whatever. And just so we're not like crashing with other people. Mm-hmm. And then when we're in this mode, basically, I think it kind of comes from the code by intention style a little bit, but changed so that anytime we see something, we just write a comment in the code. And so if the comment is a smell, we're not done with the card until we address all the comments, right? And so it can either be a to-do or a comment. And it's similar to yours where you have the notes in the code, but it's in the code itself instead of a separate file in the same repo. And that's kind of the controversial aspect of it. But I think what led us to there is when we kept our notes elsewhere, we'd be like, oh, go back to this file and refactor this name, or go to this line. And by the time you get back to it, it's changed since then or whatever, right? So the comment can kind of float around with whatever the code is. And so, as brainstorming happens while working on task A, oh, refactor that, rename this, do that, it'll all get captured, but we stick to the thing we do until we get green, and then we can go refactor. Or, oh, we need to change that later, so we'll refactor first, as Chris said, and later go do the thing. But I know that's controversial because to-dos is like, you can mention that on Twitter and expect 20 replies both ways, but
yeah, comments and code, yeah.
Comments and codes, yeah. Well, just interested in your thoughts on that idea, because we're just experimenting and learning. So
actually, I was telling only half the truth, because this markdown file is for the ideas that we cannot solve or write down in the current, say, method or class.
Okay.
Because if we try to realize an algorithm within one method, I really like to use pseudocode or comments. just to write the algorithm down without having to write the correct syntax. So I encourage teams to actually write pseudocode comments in the current method to get this linear kind of code. But as soon as we get ideas about other parts of the code where we have to switch source code files, we can also switch to our markdown file, to our to-do file, and put our idea there. Because if we put comments somewhere else in the code, it might be hard to find these places. Of course, we've got version control and we can see what we changed. But those comments are scattered all across our code base. And using comments, I like to use the code comments or the pseudocode comments in the current method we are writing. But the other ideas that might affect other parts of our source code base, we'll try to put in this markdown file.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and it's probably one of those experiment and adapt and see what works in your context kind of thing. But that's fascinating. I haven't heard that idea of having the markdown file in the source code. Well, it seems like a good time to transition topics. So yeah, it sounds like you had some things to share on taking breaks. What are you thinking?
Actually, this fits perfectly to keeping focus, because we as developers tend to work and work and work for too long and stay in our tunnel, and we're losing focus just because we don't realize that we're losing attentiveness or creativity, because we're working too long in front of this machine, which has fascinating colors to display and everything else. We're just staring into the screen, and we begin to lose focus because we work too long. And this becomes worse if we're working in a pair or in a team, because if the other cool developers don't need a break, why should I, small developer, need a break? It's I really seem the weak developer if I'm asking for a break because all the other people don't need a break. So we work and work and work and just don't realize that we are not effectively solving our problems anymore, because we losing focus, try to do this and that, discussions become less and less focused, and that's a good idea to take a break. And one of the magic coaching the magic wands in coaching is just asking for a break if I see teams losing focus, and if they if I see that we're even not taking care of writing down our notes in our markdown file, that's a good point to just take a break of, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then come back together and continue our team programming session. So taking breaks proactively is probably one of the most underrated practices in sustainable programming. So, and it's about keeping focus, doing a break, refreshing the mind, and getting back to work with focus again. And it's just working magically.
I love it. And and I think this is a good topic to have Chris in here with us, because Chris is convinced that he doesn't need breaks. Is that right, Chris? I'm going to throw you out and push you into the center here.
No, I'm just really bad at taking breaks. And so, I think for me, when doing team programming, I typically just feel that a break can be taken by anyone at any time. And so if you're not at the keyboard, just get up and leave, right? And so it's not that taking breaks has been something that I don't want to do or something like that, but the I just think that it can be done ad hoc rather than having the dedicated break time. Now, with that stated, I don't mind it. It's, for me, when a break comes up in the timer and it's like, okay, everybody, we just stop now and get up and leave, it does, that's harder for me to do. And so, but it just makes me anxious. That's all. That's
Okay.
that's the only thing. It pulls me away from it, but that's okay. I'm good with it, and objectively, I understand that it's a good thing to do. But emotionally, I don't.
Yeah, but you're doing this dynamic mob thing right from the start, right?
Yeah.
It was okay for you to take the break whenever you wanted it. So you're used to doing this dynamic mob thing. But in my experience, it's pretty frightening for developers to go on a break for themselves while all the other colleagues are still working. This is something that you just don't do. So taking breaks together can help us see the positive effect of getting focus again after the break. And then the dynamic team sessions might become natural after that. But in my experience, teams have to learn that taking breaks is an important part of our work. And if we don't take breaks, we're delivering not that good solutions as we could if we had a fresh mind. And we don't use a timer actually for that. You're afraid of the timer. We just see that we have a break, say once an hour. And when I go to a team as a facilitator, I'd try to see, maybe I have a timer running that's saying, just for me, we should take a break now, but then we'll wait until there's a logical break in thinking, or when we just see that we don't have focus anymore, then everyone will agree, oh yeah, a break might be a good idea. So we're just learning taking breaks.
I do. So this was in Jason Kearney's experience report of his first time mobbing, and his my first real team. And so back then, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago at least. When we were mobbing, it was, get up and take a break whenever you wanted to, but you would never interrupt the mob necessarily. And so he talked a lot in that paper about anxiety to get up and leave and let the code move on without you. And one thing that I think is really important is that people learn to allow the code to move on without them. And so I think it's probably very healthy to rotate people out of the team for breaks so that they don't, so that like one person's not navigating the whole day and they're the only continuity. It's kind of like a chaos engineering for that mob. You pull somebody out, the team keeps going, they come back in a new context and they have to readjust. And I think that's healthy. And so taking breaks all at the same time sometimes makes me concerned. But so breaks are good, but I also think that just disrupting the continuity of the stream or of the available navigators, I think is an interesting idea. So that may be where you're getting that idea, Austin.
Yeah, and I think please go ahead, Thomas. Yeah.
Thinking about it, we would just call in the second topic of our talk today, just taking breaks. We didn't actually, we didn't call it taking breaks together, did we?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
So actually, it's just about taking breaks, because that's the positive effect of regaining focus. If I've got a fresh mind and rejoin the team, maybe I'll see that we've lost focus, and I can get the team back on focusing on the task. So it's actually, it doesn't matter if we're taking this break together or if we're taking the break, each one of us separately, but we're regaining focus.
Yeah, and I think this, I totally agree. And I think what this discussion probably highlights, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong in here on this attempt to synthesize, is that maybe it's a shuha-re thing. It's something that a new team mobbing or team programming for the first time, they might, it might be good for them to be very disciplined about driver navigator and about breaks, and to learn the discipline of it. And But then as retrospectives are built in and people start modifying the process, I think chaos engineering might be something to introduce later, if you're going to intentionally introduce it, maybe as a retrospective item. Or it just might be a send to enter return thing. Like I've came into mobs who are completely freestyle, 100% how Chris says. People just like, I'm going to take a break, and they leave the keyboard and the code keeps going, and then they come back and everyone's very comfortable with that. I've been in mobs who are very strict navigation, strict breaks, and they love it that way. They love the zen of the very structure. And then I think I'm currently in a mob that's kind of a blend of those two worlds. And I think it's the classic coach, it depends statement, consultant statement, right? And so, so for wherever you're at, if you're sensing certain problems, maybe experiment with more structured breaks, or maybe experiment with more chaos stuff, which I know Chris leans towards. So I guess the problems
perfect.
in your current environment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's personal preference, I think, to an extent. But it was really, Jason's experience and his experience report definitely had, indicated that there was a problem with the onboarding. And that's where a lot of this like structured break stuff came into our process later. Because before, when there wasn't a lot of content published out there about team programming like this, it was just kind of being invented as we go. And so he was essentially had to leave because he had to step away, and then but he had a high anxiety about coming back to a code base that had moved on without him. And fundamentally that was just a problem with onboarding and making sure that certain behaviors are known as okay, and things along those lines. But also different mobs are going to enjoy different styles of working.
But you've got a point in we've got to learn to let go of our code, and this will help if we're leaving the team programming session in the evening, and someone else is working on that because of different time zones, and I get back to the team programming session in the morning, and another part of the team has changed the code base. So this might be a really good training ground for letting go, for letting the code evolve without me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's there is a anxiety piece to that, right? Where you can say, hey, I trust the team, to whoever is there, they will make the right decisions, and I can switch teams and things will continue on as normal, or I'll be away for a few days. And that kind of comes back to some of our lofty goals, that you can take a vacation at any time and know that the team will keep it going. And and I think I think it's probably a good time to switch topics, because we're getting a little bit close on time. So obviously Chris and I do mob programming full time, other than learning time. But we're very aware that many people find benefit doing this part time. And how has it been for you, Thomas?
I've actually been to only a few teams who were using team programming 100% of the time. And that's why I had to realize that already using team programming part of our time is really, really helpful. And if I go on conferences and talk about team programming, I always get the question, do we have to do this 100% or really a long time during the week to have any positive effects? And what I've found out is that if a team only does, say, 2 or 3 hours a week, like Friday morning or Friday afternoon, but regularly, it will help them improve building better software, or becoming a better team, or becoming a team at all from a group of people. And when they realize this, and this is already happening if you do it once a week for 2 or 3 hours, and once the team realizes that team programming is helpful if it's done regularly, they suddenly realize that there are other tasks or stories that they should be doing team programming style, but they don't have to do team programming 100%. I know that you're doing it; other teams are doing it 100%, but there are other ways of learning team programming and of applying team programming successfully, like this coding together and then going to learning hours. I think you had Emily Bage on your show just a few weeks ago, and her summer coaching is based on just learn to code together and then go to your learning hours and apply this what you've just learned. But many teams and larger companies aren't just allowed or just don't have the time of doing this 100%, and still. If we're doing this regularly, and I think this regular thing is more important than doing it all the time, then we can become better teams and learn to build better software together. And this is where, where all my passion lies, that I can help teams to build better software together.
Yeah, I have to say, I 100% agree that it's we can put an episode link in our show notes to the Just Sharing episode. And actually, we've had a fellow mobber, Alex Bird, make a website about Just Sharing. And so basically, it's the idea that, hey, in our context, this is what we do, and this is what works for us. But we realize your context is different, and so different things may work in your context. And I could definitely see going back actually to previous part of my career where it was only done part-time, there were wonderful effects from it being part-time, even if it wasn't for all the things. And so I think finding what works in your context is fantastic. And in light of time, I think we're gonna close there, but it's just great to be hearing about everyone's different experiences with team programming. And before we close, Thomas, is there anything you'd like to plug or share?
It's just, I think it's great to live in this time where we can experiment with our way of working and with our way of, with changing the way of working together, that we're allowed to do this in the IT sector, because there are other parts of society where they aren't allowed to try new things like we can do. And I would like to encourage as many teams as dare to do this, to just try team programming, try different ways of working together, because what we've learned over the last 1.5 years is that there can be sudden changes in our environment, in the way that we can work, how we can work together. And if we can adapt to those changed environment, and we had to do this quite suddenly, then we can still work together, still produce great software together. And team programming helps a lot. And I would like to encourage many teams to try it, to give it a try, and to talk about their experiences, because we can only get better if we learn from all the different needs, all the different great solutions that help teams. So if you find something helpful for you, just talk about it, and maybe you're invited to the Mob Mentality show and can talk about this here.
Yeah, right on. We'd love to have your experience shared here. So we will second that call to action there. And yeah, I totally agree. The heart of it is experiment, inspect, adapt, and try things and find things that work well for your environment. And having that ownership and creating environments, if you're a leader, that enables that kind of thing is absolutely key. So with that, please like and subscribe. Please hit the notification bell to be notified of future episodes as they come out. And if you're inspired by Thomas and what he had to share about keeping focus in mobbing with different tools about tasks and taking breaks and realizing these benefits, even if it's only part-time in your context, please share this video with someone else. And in the meantime, mob well, everyone, and have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you.